Hello, BookTube. How about some new books to start the day? That's always a great way to start the day. Although I don't know when you'll be seeing this video, probably not at the start of your day. There are a whole bunch of meatier things I want to do, big discussion videos that I want to wade in on and bore you to death with. But they're going to have to wait. And in the meantime, we have new books, which are always fun to go through. I don't know what's here, neither do you, so we'll see them together. Let's see here. Okay, this first one is from Amazon Crossing, which is it's the translation arm of Amazon's publishing arm. This comes out in June, and it is by a Dutch writer named Martin Michael Dreysen, and it is the translated title is Rivers. It's a hardcover too. Okay. So, let's see here. Oh, okay. Oh, wonderful. Oh, that's just perfect. In early June, this is going to be available in hardcover, paperback, audio, and ebook. Perfect. Just the way it should be done. In this critically acclaimed and award-winning collection, this Dutch writer composes 3 intertwining novellas of longing, confliction, and the ever-changing nature of life, bound by the rivers that flow through each tale. Okay, it's conflict, not confliction. And this is a novella. This is not 3 novellas, this is 3 short stories. This is a novella. 2 corrections, but that's all right. So what is this actually about? Just as each rush of water constantly changes through the passage of a river, so is each tale that is touched by its natural power. On a storm-swollen river in northeastern France, an alcoholic actor combats both his demons and nature's tempests. Along 2 rivers in Germany, a kind-hearted logger has but one wish: to travel with the lumber from his small Franconian town to the end of the river in the Netherlands, where it feeds into the majestic North Sea. And in a bucolic vale in France, in Brittany, 2 families divided by religion and an unnamed stream sustain a centuries-old feud. Okay, so rivers are literally going to be the heart of all of these short stories. That's great. That's fantastic. I am interested, and I am no longer biased against Amazon, so I will give this a try. I might not like the company, but being biased against... I might not like some of the company's trade practices, but being biased against the authors for that is, I think, a little too far. Yes, they knew who they were signing up with, and did it because Amazon offered them a better monetary deal. Eyes wide open, knowing how badly Amazon treats its own authors. But even so, they wrote a book, they sweated hard over it, and the book exists separate from anything to do with them anyway, right? We've gone over that a million times on this channel, that you have to do that. So even the greed of the author, even the willingness of the author to turn a blind eye towards a company that wants to kill all other companies, to kill legitimate competition, even that, as a character trait, must be overlooked in favor of simply taking this thing and reading it. It took a bit for me to get there, but that's my stance on Amazon now. So let's see what this next one is. Oh, wonderful. Okay, this is a debut, and I love debuts. A broad, open canvas. Could be anything. Anything could happen. The writer might even surprise me and be good. This is the made-up stories. This is fiction, and it's by someone named Caleb, and it's called Treeborn. And yet the author's last name is Johnson, and it is not our Caleb from BookTube. He looks like that. The young guy. And this is a debut. Let's see what we have here. Oh, let me hold it up for you here. Janie Treeborn lives on an orchard at the edge of Alberta, Alabama, and in time she has become its keeper. A place where conquistadors once walked and where the peaches they left behind now grow, Alberta has seen fierce battles, violent storms, and a frantic change. And when the town is once again threatened from without, Janie realizes it won't withstand much more. So she tells the story of its people, of Hugh, her granddaddy, determined to preserve Alberta's legacy at any cost, his wife Maybelle, the postmaster, whose sudden death throws the town into chaos, of Maybelle's lover, Lee Malone, a black orchidist harvesting from the land where he is less than welcome, and of a time Janie kidnapped her own Hollywood-obsessed aunt and tore the wrong people apart. And the author grew up in a rural community of Arley, Alabama, so this, there'll be lots of autobiography mixed in here, I'd bet, and graduated from the University of Alabama. He was awarded the Gentell Writing Residency after he received his MFA from the University of Wyoming. Johnson has worked as a newspaper reporter, a janitor, a butcher, among other things. Currently, he lives with his partner Irina and their dog Hugo in Philadelphia, where he teaches writing, where he teaches while working on his next novel. So he grew up in rural Alabama, which in the United States, for some reason, I know it's not ironic. I've seen too many people do it across the political spectrum to think that it's ironic. In the United States, for some reason, in public discourse, the state of Alabama is almost always preceded by the great state of Alabama, even though it has the most corrupt politicians of any state in the union except for one, and isn't all that great in any other measurable sense. Per capita income, infant mortality, infrastructure. You could go across the board. Alabama's way, way at the bottom, and yet for some reason, people always comment when they mention it in conversation. They always say the great state of Alabama. Don't know why, but he grew up in rural Alabama, went to the University of Alabama, and then got an MFA at the University of Wyoming. And now he teaches in Philadelphia. So my main question is totally irrelevant, of course, to the worth of the book, which is, does he still have one of the truly great things about Alabama, which is the accent? Oh my God, the accent, the Alabama accent is like listening to bluegrass. I wonder if he still has it or if he got rid of it. Some writers are particularly facile ear. Naturally, it's what leads to their talent, but it also makes them highly susceptible to just losing their accent. Some writers do. Some others are so caught up in their own inner voices, another aspect of what makes them writers, that they don't ever lose it. It never even lessens. So I wonder which case he is. But anyway, this comes out in early June. It is a debut novel, and I can't wait. I will probably read this weekend. Debut novels, I just love them. Because you never know what's going to happen, right? With someone on their third novel, even if it's an author that you've loved for 3 novels, you do know a large amount of what you're going to get. Even if they're trying to surprise you, you still know. you know their ticks, you know their gambits, you know roughly their diction. With a new writer, you don't know anything. You don't know anything at all. So I'm approaching this guy. I suppose if I dug around online and found out who his teachers were at Wyoming or Alabama, and if they were published, I might be able to sort of kind of guess. If I dug around on Facebook or Twitter and found out if he knows any other writers, and if he's known them for a while and then read their stuff, I'm not going to do that, and it wouldn't be dispositive anyway. Instead, with something like this, with a book like this, Treeborn by Caleb Johnson, a kind of nice-looking hardcover. And good for him getting a hardcover with Picador. That's wonderful. With something like this, I don't know what I'm going to get going in, and I love that feeling. I absolutely love it. So let's see here. So it's about a woman tending an orchard in an endangered rural community who decides that if it's going to die, if the community is going to die, she should tell some of its stories. That's really good. That's really good. As a premise for a book, that's really good. It's not overreaching. It's infinite impossibility. I like it. So anyway, let's see what we have next here. Oh God, it's him again. I tell you, I can't go 1 month free of the pestiferous little Corsican. This is by Mark Browd, and it is The Invisible Emperor, Napoleon on Elba, From Exile to Escape. Look at him staring at the ocean. Each should all be mine. All right. This comes out in October, so I have a while yet. In the spring of 1814, Napoleon Bonaparte was defeated. Having overseen an empire spanning half the European continent and governed the lives of some 80 million people, he suddenly found himself exiled on Elba, a small Mediterranean island. This would have been the end of him if Europe's rulers had had their way. But soon enough, Napoleon imposed his preternatural charisma and historic ambition on both his captors and the very island itself, plotting his return to France and to power. After 10 months of exile, Napoleon escaped Elba with just over 1,000 supporters in tow, marched to Paris, and retook the palace. All without firing a shot. Which is an incredible story. Okay, so there's the reason I keep coming back to this odious little dwarf is because he's a great story from start to finish. And that the story of his march on Paris is amazing. It's just amazing. It reads like something out of a Dumas novel. And it all happened. Not long after, tens of thousands of people would die fighting for and against him at Waterloo. And this book is a gripping new history that explores this overlooked chapter of Napoleon's famous, improbable, and adventurous life. It's not overlooked, of course. There were 1,000 books on the subject. There have been 1,000 books on every single hair on Napoleon's head. Not the 110th hair up to the left and northeast of his left ear, but the 112th hair up to the northeast, just over his left ear. There have been 1,000 books on every single thing connected with Napoleon Bonaparte. But there hasn't been one in a bit, and certainly not this. I mean, this is by Penguin Press. They're going to make it. They'll make sure it's in every bookstore. It'll be a wide, popular appeal, and there hasn't been one like that in a long time. And it's a great story. There's also a great movie. There was a great movie. I didn't know I was going to get this, of course, so I'm totally blanking on it. I'll try and leave the note down in the description below in the video. It's Ian Holm as Napoleon, and it's a great little movie about how he bends the whole island to his will. I loved it. And I've read a couple of accounts of this particular part of Napoleon's life that I really liked. The pub sheet describes this as part forensic investigation, part jailbreak adventure. I love it. Okay. All right. So this comes out in early October. I will report back. I will almost certainly be reviewing this. It'll just be a question of where and when. Although, not to bash on poor Caleb Johnson. He looks like he has the weight of the world on his shoulders. Or writers like him. But I gotta tell you, and you're gonna see it coming if you've watched any videos on this channel, I honestly don't know how you would ever go back to this if you had stuff like this. I honestly don't know. But not to say that the made-up stories don't have their charms. The thing I worry about with this is that you might remember a little while ago, you might not remember, I've made 20,000 videos, it's permissible for you not to remember. I remember because I live, eat, and breathe these things, but a little while ago I showed you an advanced copy of a gigantic new biography of Napoleon, not just Elba, but Soup to Nuts, by Adam Zamoyski, which comes out, I think, at around the same time. And the thing I worry about when that happens is that they're book editors, who are always thirsty for space, they're always starved for space, they don't have it, they want to cover everything. They have the best of intentions, but as I know from experience, the ads, the paid ads, and the sports section in the back, and everything else is always hungry to eat up your pages. They yield often to the temptation to lump books by theme, and I never think it's fair. I almost never see a review of such things done well. I do it well every month in the Christian Science Monitor, but not many people do, and I think the Zamoyski book and this come out at roughly the same time. I would hate it if Adam Zamoyski worked for 5 years on a 1,000-page biography of Napoleon, and it gets 2 paragraphs lumped in with this. We'll see. I won't do that, but we'll see. We'll see what will happen. Speaking of the Christian Science Monitor, they have recently toughened their paywall for the online site. I mean, the actual magazine is a fairly healthy distribution, but you probably won't see it on your newsstand. But the website, the web traffic is very healthy, and they have recently done what so many other journals and newspapers have done, which is to tighten the paywall so that they're not giving everything away for free. So now I think the new arrangement at the Christian Science Monitor is you get 5 free articles a month. That's fairly standard. And when I thought about that, I realized that 5 free articles a month would mean that every month for the Christian Science Monitor's website, you could read me. I'm in the Monitor 5 times a month. And the raving egomaniac inside me, not very far inside me, usually right near the surface, said, well, okay, they've got the essentials covered. But no. The key I want to stress here is that you should subscribe to the Monitor. You should you should just bite the bullet. It's not that much money. And just pay for unlimited access to their content. They have a shelf of Pulitzers as long as your arm. And on top of that, they're good people. I'm amongst them on a regular basis. You've never seen such earnest, intelligent young people in your life, constantly looking for the truth of what they're writing about, but also, and unlike a lot of other major newspapers, constantly looking also for the light in what they're writing about, even if it's the bleakest subject. Is there any kind of light here? We don't want to leave you just without it. And I love that. I absolutely love it. And so I'll put in a little plug here that you should subscribe to this place I love so much. So anyway, let's see what we have here. Oh my. Okay. All right, this is due in August. It's not known to me. King Khan by Paul Willets. The Bizarre Adventures of the Jazz Age's Greatest Imposters. I thought the Jazz Age's greatest imposter was Deb. She has competition. In March 1917, war hero and famed Onondagan Olympic runner Tom Longboat arrived in San Jose's First Baptist Church to speak to several hundred congregants gathered to hear him reminisce about his sports career and bravery on France's battlefields. After thrilling the crowd, showing off his war wounds, and pocketing a generous appearance fee, he popped on a train to another California city where he could enjoy rock star-like acclaim as well as the cash that accompanied it. I think I know where this is going. Little did his admirers know, Little did his admirers know that the flamboyant smooth talker with whom they were so enamored was in fact a fraud. Not a war hero, Olympic star, or even genuine Native American. He was actually Edgar LaPlante, a Rhode Island-born vaudeville performer and con man, best described as a real-life Tom Ripley cum Jay Gatsby, with a dash of David Bowie's sexual fluidity and showmanship. Edgar's good looks, charisma, and singing talent enabled him to travel from town to town, starring in vaudeville shows, fundraising for the U.S. war effort, and spinning ever more incredible tales about his past. Against the alluring backdrop of the Jazz Age excesses that were transforming American culture, Edgar took advantage of the public's growing obsession with celebrity, staying one step ahead of the investigations into him for fraud, draft dodging, and even spying for the Germans. In the novelistic, darkly true story, Paul Willets gives the first full account of the incomparable escapades of this one-time Coney Island huckster who, over just a few months, cheated a succession of European aristocrats out of as much as $58 million in 2018 currency, which he then gave away, bringing him worldwide fame. Okay, I don't know where to go with this guy. He's raising money for the troops, but he might be a spy. He's hauling in huge amounts of money by fleecing the gullible, but then giving it away. I don't quite know what to make of him. I will find out. I will find out. Wonderful. Okay, and Paul Willets is based in the UK, but nobody's perfect. And he has written previous books. He's written for The Independent, The Guardian, and The Times Literary Supplement. And this is his American debut. Wow, we got another debut on our hands. Okay. All right, let's see what we have here. This next one. Oh, great. Fantastic. Wonderful. I requested this. This comes out in early October. Is by David Kaplan, and it's got schmutz on the cover. I'm going to show you a schmutzy cover. What on earth? It's a controversial book. I sometimes get controversial books, and I never know quite what to do with them because my own views on politics and culture are rather unguessable. They are neither right nor left-wing. To put it mildly, you don't know anyone else who has them, and so they tend to color my coverage. But all right, well, that's clear enough. This is The Most Dangerous Branch by David Kaplan, inside the Supreme Court's assault on the Constitution. And that title got my interest right away because the Supreme Court has not mounted an assault on the Constitution. The assault on the Constitution in the last 2 years has come from the executive branch only. And so, that's promising in a way because that means automatically I'm going to be arguing with the author. And that means heightened interest. That means heightened attention. And he might convince me. So let's see. Here, let me hold you up that thing there. It's an inflammatory cover. 2 centuries ago, Alexander Hamilton described the Supreme Court as the least dangerous branch. That's no longer true, argues David Kaplan, the former legal affairs editor of Newsweek. Time and again, the justices arrogantly intervene simply because they can, subverting democracy in the process. It's not that they're rank partisans. It's that we foolishly come to accept their dominion over American life. Whatever one thinks of the social issue, this social issue or that, from abortion to gun control to campaign finance to voting rights to stopping the recount and putting George W. Bush in office, that's bad for the country. The court's ascendance does not only give too much authority to 9 unelected, unaccountable justices, it enfeebles Congress, diminishes the value of politics, and corrupts confirmation hearings. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm on board. That's fantastic. I love the feeling, actually, of knowing that I'm going to fight with an author. That's a lot of fun. What I ought to try to do is see if he'll do an interview. Sometimes authors are willing to fight in interviews. And I'm always willing to fight. I get it from me sainted Ma. I'll never forget how much I cracked up when I came across her one afternoon in the kitchen. She seemed all flustered. I said, Ma, what's wrong? She said, I want to fight and nobody will fight with me. At the time, I believe I said something unsunlike, like, there's something wrong with you. So it's, of course, horrifying to know that now, at age 28, I'm sort of like that myself. But anyway, I'm always up for a legal aimed history like this. Always. Oh my! Oh goodness gracious! Okay, all right. Well, this next one's a finished copy. It's due right around the corner, early June. My June shelf is going to be so monstrous. Oh my God! This is Kudos by Rachel Cusk, the final volume in her trilogy that started with Outline and Transit. A woman writer visits a Europe in flux, where questions of personal and political identity are rising to the surface, and the trauma of change is opening up new possibilities of loss and renewal. Within the rituals of literary culture, Faye finds the human story in disarray amid differing attitudes toward public performance of the creative persona. And I read Outline, and I read Transit, and I read the cascades. I have been reading the cascades of critical press about this book. Critical press meaning appearing in critical journals, not meaning critical as in evaluative, because the gigantic upheavals of hosannas for this author that I've seen in the TLS, the London Review of Books, Harper's, Atlantic, the New Yorker, have been like I've seen in almost never in the last few years. Utterly bewildering, just utterly bewildering. And the first 2 books, I honestly don't see why. I spotted grammatical errors, syntactical errors. There's no concept of pacing. The characters aren't believable. They aren't believable at all. They don't act like anything like a human being, even though they have human names. I'll give this a try. I have intentionally not bothered to go out of my way for the advance copy or to grab any of the extra copies that I've seen at various, reviewers' houses or newspapers or whatever. I haven't gone out of my way because, look at this. Dwight Garner, Emily Donaldson, Ruth Franklin, Tessa Hartley. Just unbelievable. All right, so... All right, well, you can't judge a book by its critical reception, even the third in a trilogy. So I will. This is right around the corner. I will just sit down and read this. And the fact that the first 2 books frustrated me doesn't matter. Third book could do something for me, or it could be that this just isn't an author for me. Although that feels wrong to say when I'm spotting things that are just objectively wrong in the prose. When you see something like that, and then you say, well, I guess they're just not for me, it feels like a cop-out. It feels like if I'm reading along someone's book, and I get to page 60, and I realize, oh, wait a minute, you're harping on something that you haven't even introduced yet, and you clearly think you have introduced it, because it's on your mind while you're writing it, and no one's bothered to catch it, or even read it in the editorial process. When I encounter something like that, I don't want to say, well, I guess she's just not my cup of tea. I want to say, I guess she's bad. So, we will see. I will try this third book, and we will see. And then we'll finish this up. I forgot to mention this ends in a box. We have a box to wrap things up here. Wonderful. Where have you been? Where have you been, my little one? I've been waiting for you for quite some time. It's an invoice. This is by Chris Bear, and this is Martha's Vineyard Tales. From Pirates to Lake Tashmoo to Baxter's Saloon. It's in a naked hardcover with plenty of black and white photos. And it's just what the cover says. It's just the tall tales that have grown up on Martha's Vineyard. Those of you who are not familiar with America, it's an island just off the coast of Massachusetts. It is now a vacation haven full of gigantic mansions and beautiful vistas. And before the gigantic mansions, it was also a vacation haven of a shabbier, more bohemian kind. And before it was a vacation haven, it was a haven for all sorts of other people, all sorts of outcasts and misfits and whatnot. And there are great stories all throughout. There are great stories from every incarnation of Martha's Vineyard. I love the Vineyard. Absolutely love it. I've spent a great deal of time there, and I love it. And I am a book reviewer for the Martha's Vineyard Gazette, which is, you wouldn't think would make me smile so broadly, because it's by any measure an extremely tiny newspaper. But the Gazette is storied, and it was once run by a wonderful, wonderful man and his wonderful colleague, who could be seen at all times just gently walking together side by side down the streets and lanes of the vineyard. So it's a treat. It's an absolute treat to be writing for them. And this is just the sort of thing. This will be, of course, in every bookstore on Cape Cod, every bookstore anywhere near Martha's Vineyard. And it'll be just the sort of thing that tourists, summer vacationers or whatnot, will see this in the bookstores, propped up on a little pile, and grab it as a kind of book memento of their time at the vineyard. A lot of them will go to the vineyard for the very first time, maybe for the only time. Wonderful. Okay. All right. Great. So that we have Martha's Vineyard Tales. I've been waiting for this because I want to get to work on it. Then Kudos by Rachel Cusk, which I, honest to God, will try with a broad open mind. Then The Most Dangerous Branch by David Kaplan, about the evils of the Supreme Court. King Kong, about a con man in Jazz Age America. Invisible Emperor, about Napoleon plotting and scheming to come back into power from Elba. Treeborn by Caleb Johnson, debut novel. And Rivers, a new translation from Amazon Crossing, their ambitious translation arm. And that's it. That's a nice quick morning mail haul. I'm gonna tootle off now, but I'll be back soon. We've got plenty else to talk about. Thank you, BookTube.